Hello, this is Lynn Matajan from Matajan's Herbals, and we are going to go ahead and start up the a new video series. I took a little bit of time off and I kind of regrouped, and now I am ready to get back in front of you folks because I've missed you. So today what we're going to do is we are going to learn how to make beeswax food wraps. Now the idea behind that is it limits our carbon footprint because we can use these over and over again instead of using like saran wrap or the Ziploc baggies. These are things that are very easily made and have antibacterial and antifungal growth properties to them, so it makes it again really easy to have fresh food, because these wraps actually breathe, so the food is not being stuck inside plastic with no breathing ability. You can wrap anything in these wraps, with the exception of raw meat. You're not going to want to put raw meat in there because, you know, blood and stuff like that. But vegetables, whether they're leftover vegetables or fully put together vegetables, you can do that. You can put them over the edge of a bowl so that if you have leftovers, you can use it for that. You can wrap sandwiches in them, and the uses are just limitless. So what you need, there's a couple of different ways that you can make this. I'm going to show you one, and I'll talk a little bit about the other ones. So the first thing I need to do, actually I forgot to do, is to heat up my iron. So I'm going to plug my iron in, and that's what we're using tonight in order to melt the beeswax and to do all the other stuff that we are using here. Now I have to tell you, I haven't used this iron in forever because I don't buy food that I need to iron. I did that when I was a kid and decided that, you know, that's not something I want to do anymore. Now, so the equipment that you need is a mortar and a pestle, or a bag and a rolling pin. You need a baking sheet, and I have a clay baking sheet, so that's the one that I'm going to use today. You need a towel, you need fabric, you need to have some pine resin or some frankincense resin, beeswax, and jojoba oil or coconut oil. Both jojoba oil and coconut oil are antibacterial, and so it just adds another little bit of opportunity to keep your food fresh for a little bit longer. You also need to have measuring spoons and a brush and a pair of scissors. Now I actually also have pinking shears, but I have them at the shop, and I neglected to grab them before I came here. So I'm going to go ahead and use regular ones, but that gives you the opportunity to have your fabric ravel a little bit if you use the pinking shears. And those are the ones that cut in like jagged teeth, and it is, and that will stop the raveling. So that, and then you need to have some parchment paper. So the fabric that I have today is, here we go, flour sack towels. Now these are what I used when I was a kid drying my mom's dishes after dinner. And it is 100% cotton. So you want to have fabric that is 100% cotton, because if it's not, it can melt when you're heating it up with the wax and everything else. So look at what kind of bowls you have, what kind of, whether they're, you know, regular round bowls, whether they're the Pyrex square bowls, and figure out what size that you are going to need. Now these towels are 28 inches by 28 inches. And so what I'm going to do is just cut it into 4s, because then it's good, big enough that I can put it around a bowl this size or a square bowl, but I can also wrap my sandwich in it without any problems. So so for me right now, that seems to be a good size. So I'm going to cut this into 4 pieces. Now, if they are not exactly even, you know, that doesn't really matter, because your bowls are different sizes as well. So we're cutting the fabric first. Okay, so there's 1 cut. And then I've got 2 more that I need to make so that I have 4 pieces. I'm probably only going to make 1 of these today, or certainly on video, because there's absolutely no reason to make you sit through the same process 4 different times. Boy, I guess I would tell you that I have really, my cutting skills aren't as good as they could be. So as always, I'm going to tell you that if there's something in particular that you would like to hear about, let me know. Put a note down here on the bottom of one of the pages, the page here, and I will pick it up. Okay, so there is my piece of fabric. Now, the first thing, I'm just going to put it over by the table right now, because I want to use the mortar and pestle, and then I want to get it out of the way. So what I have is the pine resin. Now the pine resin can come in powder, or it can come in little bitty pieces, or actually big pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of the resin here in my mortar and pestle. And there's a variety of sizes of the little stones, from stone to powder. Now, the resin is really not hard to break up. So you just want to tap it a little bit around. Now, if you're magical, you want to move your mortar and pestle in a clockwise motion, because that's putting additional power and healing into it. So once you've got it, you've got the big pieces done, then I just simply roll it like I would if I was using a bread dough. It is, because it clears up really fast. It powders very fast. If you use a coffee grinder for some of your herbs, which I do, or I powder a lot of things. I powder potato peels, I powder onion skins, I powder eggshells, and I powder tomato skins, and this will go in your coffee grinder just as easily as those will. The thing that you have to remember about resin, though, is that resin is sticky, and so if you put your resin in pretty much anything, you're probably going to want to use that then only for resin, or get it out real fast. And you can get it out by using isopropyl alcohol, or you can get it out by using oil. So now, see how nice and powdery it is? Okay, so the next step is we get the baking pan out. Now you're going to put a towel on the baking pan because you need a little bit of barrier because you don't want it to be so hot. And especially if you're using, I mean, I'm using, like I said, a clay one. You can use your metal ones as well. It's pretty much whatever you have, but you want to make sure that there is some kind of barrier. So I have in my kitchen, actually, I've got a really wonderful cutting board, and I could use the cutting board to do this, but I don't want to get wax in my cutting board. So it's like, yeah, if I get wax on the towel, I'm going to be sad, but I'm not going to be anywhere near as sad as I would if I had done it on my cutting board. So we're going to go ahead and put the fabric down. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm probably going to end up cutting this a little bit more because it isn't fitting. I should have used a bigger pan. So I think that's what we'll do already, is we'll just go ahead and make it fit the pan. All right, now, the first thing we're going to do is take this back off again, and we're going to get parchment paper. And we're going to line the pan. This is brand new, as you can see. We're going to line the pan with parchment paper. I actually use parchment paper quite a lot. If when I'm making washing soda, I'll use it because it's easier to get the baking soda out of it if I'm just lifting it up and pouring. So we're putting the parchment paper in. And then we're going to put the paper in. Now, you can get fabric that is, you can go to Joann's Fabrics and you can get some really pretty cotton print if you want to do them a little bit fancier. You can go and look at their remnants, because their remnants are always a much better price than fabric right off the bolt. And because we are looking at small pieces, you don't need to have a giant piece. It is so that's a good way to do that. It's I just decided that I wanted to go with just plain white, and I wanted to go with the towels, and so I'm pretty happy with that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the resin. Now you want to put, the rule of thumb is to put the same amount of resin as you do beeswax, and then you're going to use half of that amount for the oil that you're going to use. So I'm going to use, I think, a tablespoon. So I'm going to start out with a half a tablespoon, and we're going to try to get it as evenly matched around here as we possibly can. Now, again, you know, you do not have to be absolute to the penny there. So, but that did take about half of that tablespoon did do about half. Now, it is perfectly fine I'm going to take this off because I think that's going to be a little bit easier. This is a really cool setup of measuring spoons. I got it at Walmart, actually. And it is, it's Farberware. And it starts out at 1/8, and it goes to a 1/4 teaspoon, a 1/2 teaspoon, a teaspoon, a 1/2 tablespoon, a tablespoon, and 2 tablespoons. And I like having that variety of sizes, because then I don't have to guess. Okay, so we used a tablespoon of pine resin. Now we're going to use a tablespoon of the beeswax. Now what I use is what I have at the shop are the pastilles. They're little pellets. And if you're not using the pellets, if you're using a hunk of beeswax, what you want to do is grate it, because it will melt a whole lot easier. Okay, now both of the, I'm going to put a little bit more. Okay, so both the pine resin and the frankincense resin and the beeswax all have the antibacterial properties. So that's really good. Now the pine resin and if you use the frankincense instead, what they do is they make this sticky. So not so sticky that you're gonna stick to it, but sticky so that it sticks to each other and sticks to the bowl, just like saran wrap does. If you're just using beeswax and not using the pine or the resin, it won't be as sticky, and so you're probably not going to be as happy with it as if you were to go ahead and do this with the resin. One of the interesting things also is, as I was looking online to see, okay, how much is this going to cost me? Now, to be honest with you, I think the pine resin is $4 an ounce, and the beeswax is $3.25 an ounce. We didn't use anywhere near an ounce for this. It is, and then whatever you pay for the fabric. If you look online at Etsy, or even some of the companies that have their own websites and don't sell through Etsy, they are selling anywhere from $30 to $40 per set of 3. So it makes sense to make your own if that's something that you know, if you're crafty and if that's something that you'd like to do. We're going to use a tablespoon of olive oil. You can use olive oil or you can use jojoba oil. Now, the difference basically between the two, jojoba oil is actually a wax. Coconut oil is not a wax, but they both do the same thing. And what that does is it makes it softer so they don't crack as much. The beeswax doesn't crack quite as much, and it makes it easier to use. Now, once we get these made and we use them, the way that you care for these is when you wash them with cold water and a very easy, mild detergent like Dawn, something of that nature. I'm not shilling for Dawn, but that's what I typically use. Now, we're going to go ahead and put this oil on top of the beeswax and on top of the resin, and then we're going to put another piece of parchment paper on it, because we don't want our iron to be right on top of the beeswax. That would ruin your iron. And in the off chance that you want to use it at a different time, you don't want to ruin it. Okay, so there we go. So one more piece of parchment paper. Now basically, I turn it so that it doesn't roll up. That's just ease of for me, so I'm not fighting it. And now what we're going to do is we are going to iron this. And we're ironing it to melt the beeswax and to melt the resin. And then we're going to turn it over and we're going to melt the other side as well, because we want the wax and the resin to go totally through the fabric. Now I can see, I know you can't, but I can see the wax through the paper here. And it looks like it's pretty good melted. So now I'm going to pick this up and flip it over. And iron the other side. These would make a really great Christmas present if you have young children and you get white cotton or muslin. You can get fabric crayons and have your little kids draw their hand or draw a picture on there. And what a wonderful gift for Grandma. One that she would keep forever. All right, so you've got the paintbrush so that if you see areas that have a lot of wax as opposed to some that don't have much at all, you're just going to make it be a little bit more even. Now I had my iron just a little bit too hot, and so you see some brown on here. You're going to see some anyway because I used the yellow beeswax and not the white. The white beeswax would have been a little bit less colorful, but there it is. So nice and easy, and we're just going to let it cool, and then once it's cool, I'll be able to wrap my dinner leftovers in this. So I'm going to try to do one class a week. It'll be either Wednesday or Thursday, dependent upon the full moon and the new moon. I didn't, last night was the full moon, and so I was out at the parks doing the full moon ritual. Next week, we will do it on Wednesday, and I am going to talk about winter gardening and how to make, we're going to talk about microgreens as well. So what you can put in your garden come the, towards the end of fall, and then microgreens, and not only how to make them, but how to eat them. What are you going to do with them now? Now you got these microgreens, what are you going to do with them? So it is, my goal right now for the next some series is to make a little bit less of a carbon footprint, and also to save some money and see if we can't, save money in some things so we have money to do some fun things with a little bit down the line. As prices keep rising, my income isn't rising at the same rate, and so consequently I need to budget a little bit better. So these are budgeting items that you can use these for about a year. If you think that the wax has moved a little bit and it's not as good as it was, then just put it in the oven. And that's the other way you can do this. The other way you can do this is to you can melt all of this in a double boiler and then just paint it, or you can put it in the same way here with the pan, but not with a towel. So just a plain pan and the parchment, and put it in the oven and bake it for about 30 minutes on a low heat. So whatever is most convenient. This was convenient for me for a couple of reasons, not the least of which is I'm not bouncing all over the house in order to get this accomplished. And so this is what we've got. So we will be doing 7 o'clock as usual, because that gives me a little bit extra time to get prepared. And thank you for joining me. I hope you had a good time, and I hope you like this. And again, send me a note if there is something that you would like to see. Take care. Bye-bye.